You. I've seen you. Let me see your face. You are the one from my dreams.
Welcome back to Oblivion. We're doing a pretty fun run that was suggested in my chat on stream by one of my good friends who always makes it out. Thanks, Tyler. In order to start this challenge, we're going to have to run over to Sundercliff Watch. This is a ruin that was introduced with the Mehrunes Razor add-on. Talk about the character build for just a second. I'm going to pick a warrior birth sign because I want to get as much strength and endurance as I can as quickly as possible so that I can have the most amount of health and do as much damage as I can as soon as possible, because this run is going to scale poorly. So the longer it takes me to do this run, the harder it is going to be. I pick skills that I think will help along the way, and of course I give my class a fun name. This will be the Hoe Bender. I mean, it is your stepfather. He knows how to get all the hoes. He got the biggest one already. The run through Cyrodiil is pretty relaxed. I'm just sprinting past everything. I didn't fast travel. I probably could have fast traveled to Breville or Leyawiin to make this run slightly shorter, but I didn't. But let's look at the stats on the Hoe. The Hoe is very similar to a Warhammer or some kind of two-handed mace in the way it is, the way it swings, possibly a battle axe. I actually wouldn't know because I don't generally use two-handed weapons in Elder Scrolls games. I prefer the use of a shield. It's one more item I can hold that can have an enchantment on it, essentially. Unless it's a spear in Morrowind, because spears are the best. Or a bow, because bows are cool. But we finally arrive in Sundercliff Watch. You'll notice that I have a bound armor on. That's from a stone that I stopped on the way. I figured the Cuirass is just going to add a little bit of extra AC for a little bit of damage reduction, because I don't have a weapon right now. I can't fight my way through these enemies. I have to basically just sprint through them, which is exactly what I do. I either sprint through them or sneak past them. I did notice something strange in the area where the Hoe is actually located. While I was running through these halls, a group of NPCs were just there attacking each other.
What's the matter? Getting tired?
I don't know why they were doing that, but whatever. I got my Hoe. Now we can see here the Hoe has a 4% chance to give you a disease called Ticklebritch. I didn't contract the disease, so I guess my Hoe was relatively clean, but results may vary, so be careful. So this is what combat is going to look like. I block, wait for the attack to come, and then counterattack. And that is the combat loop for this. The weapon is very slow. I only have time for the one swing before I need to block again. It's not like a sword where I can get 2 or 3 swings in. So combat is going to be extremely slow, but possible if I persist. Here's a full form example of combat. This is one of the reasons that I think the Hoe is modeled after a Warhammer with its attack style, because all of the attacks from this Warhammer look the same. But I'm pretty sure all the attacks from the battle axe look just like this too, so I might just be confused for no reason. And since this is Oblivion, there's no difference between an axe and a mace, apparently. But we're going to go ahead and grab this amulet. It's going to be the best amulet I can grab for a while. Gives me a couple useful benefits like fortifying blunt and giving me a little bit of extra strength. And I can also take my first level. This is from all the running and sprinting and blocking and swinging I've been doing, so gonna increase endurance, strength, and speed. Speed is always going to be the attribute where I just put 2 points into it. And now that I'm done here, I can just head straight back to Wayne Priory and do the main quest. Joffrey doesn't really have anything too interesting to say. I'm just skipping through dialogue to make this go faster. At this level, Daedra aren't going to be too hard, and I will be fighting my way through this first Oblivion gate. Granted, I'll be trying to take a shortcut to just get to the main tower first. I'm looking for any enchanted armor that can help me on my journey. Maybe a helmet with some resist magic, which I did find a 7% resist magic iron helmet. I do upgrade that later to a mithril helmet with 11% resist magic. It's light armor instead of heavy armor, but it's close enough. I also get my first sigil stone and I immediately enchant my hoe with it so that I have a magic weapon and can deal damage to enemies that are immune to damage from normal weapons. But I make my way through the castle eventually and finish clearing out Kvatch. Now I can take Martin back to Wayne Priory, and I arrive while it's being assaulted by the Mythic Dawn after they have stolen the Amulet of Kings. Time to make our way to Cloud Ruler Temple, where Martin can declare himself in front of all of the Blades to be the heir, and they will pledge their loyalty to him. After that, we're on our way to meet Baurus in the Luther Broad boarding house and continue with the main quest.
Sit down. Don't say anything. Just do. Listen, I'm going to get up in a minute and walk out of here. That guy in the corner behind me will follow me. You follow him.
After we take care of Baurus's would-be assassin, we are sent to follow the Path of Dawn. We need to head to the Imperial University District in order to talk to one of the Blade's contacts. Tarmina will inform us that Mancor Cameron's books are separated into 4 different volumes. The first and second volumes are pretty easy to find, but we need to find the third and the fourth. Luckily, the third volume is being sold at the first edition. However, his only copy has been promised to a wood elf. So we get to extort a wood elf.
What can I do for you? You're a big fat liar.
And take a book away from him. After that, we have to make our way through the sewers in order to crash a party that we were not invited to. This part is pretty combat heavy. There will be 3 enemies that I need to take care of. Baurus helps quite a bit, but he can't do everything on his own without dying. And I would rather keep him alive because he can give me a couple skill increases that should help. Those being heavy armor and block. Once they detect me, it's best that I just try to charge in and do as much damage as I can. My hope was that I could zone one enemy and just drop it as quickly as possible, letting Baurus pick another enemy to zone, and the third enemy could just kind of bounce between us, hopefully settling on me so that I can tank some hits while Baurus gets some good damage in. His katana does a lot more damage than my hoe does. I probably could have survived this encounter if I remembered to drink some potions, but I didn't realize how low my health was getting, so I get to try again. Luckily, the second attempt goes better right off the bat. Much better, in fact. I'm able to actually burst down the first enemy. And then it's only 2 enemies that are trying to fight Baurus at the bottom. I try to put myself in between to take some of the heat off of him, and it does seem to work a little bit. Raven is hell-bent on making Baurus stop moving, though, so he gets ganged up on first. But with the first 2 enemies dropped, the third one follows fairly quickly. We can go ahead and grab the 4th volume off of Raven Cameron's corpse. And then spend a little bit of time to get security up to level 100. Then we can take level 5, again, strength, endurance, speed in that order. And since security was a major skill, I have a few other levels to get as well. But then it's time to make our way to the north, where the Mythic Dawn have made a base. I have no time to try to be subtle about this. Plus, if I do, they take away my hoe, and I won't be able to use it to fight them, so I kind of need to just attack them, unfortunately. Now, this is a fight against one member of the Mythic Dawn at level 13. We can already tell it's going to take a long time to get through this area. So, this one is for demonstration purposes. I'll have another one for demonstration purposes, but I will be skipping through a lot of this, just fast-forwarding through it, because it is kind of miserable to watch it in its entirety. I spent over 30 minutes in this area. The main room is also a fairly big problem. There's a group of about 8 enemies down there, and if I just jump in, it's a bad time. So I'm going to have to sneak around the back. There is usually one Mythic Dawn agent located at the very back of the shrine. They'll be able to see me when I drop down, if not shortly after I drop down. But that's okay, as long as I can fight 1 or 2 enemies at a time, it should be manageable. So I'm able to bait the first enemy pretty effectively by just attempting to go for a sneak attack, and then they just noticed me, which is fine. I didn't need to get the sneak attack. This is kind of a run back from the first fight. But I do have a second enemy that joins into the melee. They behave pretty well and they keep their distance for part of it before they start slinging spells. But by then, the first Mythic Dawn guard that I was working on is already pretty low, and his fate is pretty sealed. So once the 2v1 is over, then I can just start 1v1ing everything. And it goes pretty much as well as one would expect. The acolytes were really annoying because they kept running away when they got to low health and just aggroing everything in the dungeon in front of them. It made it so that I could never repair my armor or weapons, and at one point my weapon and my armors are all broken. So with a wet pool noodle, I finally drop the final enemy and make my way back to Cloud Ruler Temple to continue the main quest line. Martin needs some time to figure out this Mysterium Xarxes, so in the meantime, Joffrey sends us to find some spies in Bruma. Once again, these fights are extremely slow. But this is the kind of high-octane combat we're looking for, right? But once we're done finding these spies, Martin has had enough time to translate some of the Mysterium Xarxes, and he realizes we need a Daedric artifact. Sanguine wants us to be his agent of chaos, and as a good stepfather and probably an uncle in some capacity, we're more than up for the job. While this guard trusts us, he really shouldn't trust us. Not 2 seconds later, I'm already in trouble, and I've basically just got to run out of town because I also lost all of my gear when I cast that spell. Probably not the easiest quest to do if I just want to grab a Daedric relic and leave, but this is what I think is the most appropriate one to do. But after getting sufficiently far enough away from Leowyn, we can just fast travel back to the shrine and finish the quest.
A rousing success, Mortal. And it appears you joined in the festivities as well. Good for you.
Something cool about turning in the Sanguine Rose to Martin for this quest is that he actually has unique dialogue for each of the artifacts, but this one's a little bit more personal. Yep, canonically, Martin is a wild frat bro, and the parties were so out of control, he wound up losing the Sanguine Rose. No idea how that happened. But now Joffrey has one more task for us. Since we were able to close that Oblivion gate in Kvatch, he wants us to teach the guard captain in Bruma how to close these Oblivion gates, just in case more pop up near Bruma. Practically, this does nothing because he never closes any of the Oblivion gates near Bruma, no matter how many pop up. We have to do it, but, you know, it's required. It's a checkbox that I need to finish. But with that done, Joffrey doesn't have any other quests for us to sidetrack us from the rest of the main quest, although he does have important information to give us on how and where Tiber Septim's armor might be found for the next part of the quest. We're going to go ahead and grab level 15 before we head off to Sancretor, and that might be a mistake, but here we are. The big problem with Sancretor is that there's really two main enemy types here, both of them being spectral wraiths. There are a couple of ghosts scattered around here and there are also the undead blades, but the undead blades aren't really going to be that much of a problem compared to the spectral wraiths. The first type of spectral wraith likes to sling a bunch of spells, and it's very difficult to close the gap with what I use. Sneaking up on them does help, but sometimes they just detect you from across the room, and it's really hard to close in on them while they're hurling frost spells at you. The second type of spectral wraith is a little bit easier because they use a sword, and if you get close enough to them, then you can bait them into just using melee combat and go into the normal combat loop of block, swing, repeat until they're dead. But I'm not going to show any of that because it takes over a minute to kill every wraith, and there are more than 2 wraiths, which is already too long for this segment. So we just get the highlights where I die a couple times. Surprisingly, I didn't die that much, but that's because I was being very cautious through here. I realized my limitations after dying to the first enemy, and I played accordingly. I also thought it was pretty funny how the final undead blade that I was meant to kill was attacking its own ghost. I don't know if that's a bug that was introduced with the remaster or if that's a bug that's been around for a while, but I found it pretty funny to find the skeleton attacking its own spirit. And apparently that skeleton also broke all of the blade's armor because when he finally makes it, he's totally stripped of armor. But that's pretty much it. I can go ahead and grab the armor of Tiber Septim. Now we're at needing the third out of 4 items. The third item is a Great Welkin Stone. We can find that in Miskarkand. But by now, I think it's time for some armor upgrades. I make my way to the Imperial City in order to purchase the Fists of the Atronach, and I go over to Anvil to do one quest before I actually start clearing out Miskarkand. I'm going to head over to Fort Strand where I can find... He's an Nord NPC that betrayed his wife, but usually has some pretty good leveled heavy armor in his inventory when you defeat him. He'll also drop a unique mace, but we can't use that. So I'm really just here for the armor. Really isn't a pushover. His attacks are pretty strong. That mace is pretty good. It's a dwarven mace. It's not like it's a silver mace or something crappy like that. I can space the fight out by running away and healing if I need to. I can also resort to potions if absolutely need be, but I'm going to try to conserve my resources because I will need them. This armor upgrade should be well worth the fight though, especially because he was wearing full ebony save for the helmet. Fists of the Atronach also match because they're ebony gloves. But now I'm ready to go into Miskarkand. Miskarkand has 2 different groups of enemies. There's a group of goblins that are occupying the ruins, and there's a group of undead occupying the ruins. The goblins are pushovers, comparatively, because I'm a high enough level now that dread zombies start to spawn. Dread zombies are much like the regular zombies or the headless zombies that you fight early game, but they have health regen. And the problem with a weapon that doesn't do very much damage, and it doesn't attack very quickly, is that enemies that have regenerating health are an absolute nightmare to fight. As you can see, I've swung my hoe around at this thing a lot, but most of the damage isn't sticking. It's regenerating its health not quite faster than I'm dealing damage, but it's definitely a problem because I'm just not dealing enough damage. I realize the best way to solve this is to use power attacks. I can usually get out 4 power attacks before I need to just start swinging regularly, either 4 or 5. Depends on how lucky I am with the hit. But once I've taken around 3/4 of the zombie's health off with the power attacks, the regular just spam swinging works much better. There's a few times you might think it's about to die, and then it just regens a little bit of health and is still alive. But that eventually ends, and we can move on. The other type of undead in here that's super common are skeletons. The skeleton heroes really aren't that big a deal. We're basically using the same equipment. But the skeleton champions are a little bit more difficult because they can summon a skeleton guardian once. So I find it better to just take out the one skeleton guardian they can spawn before moving on to the skeleton champion itself. It gives me marginally more experience, but more importantly, it prevents the fight from being a 2v1. And instead makes it a 1v1, which is a lot more winnable than a 2v1. Skeleton champions have quite a bit of health, but they also use slow weapons, so with proper spacing, it's not too hard to fight a skeleton champion 1v1. Once I actually retrieve the Great Welkin Stone, there's one more enemy to fight. It's a named Lich, the King of Miskarkand. I don't have very much trouble with this enemy at all. After the third thing is recovered, we need to get the fourth. We need a Great Sigil Stone from a Great Oblivion Gate. Time for another level up. We're at level 18 now. And this fighting is especially miserable. Now that I'm a high enough level, I am getting Zivali spawning, which are not easy to kill. Daedroth really aren't that easy either. They're like Clan Fear on crack. But with persistence, it's not too bad to get to the Great Gate. And if you expected me to fight fair in the Great Gate, you're sorely mistaken. I am going to skirt around the outside as best as I can. I don't want to take too long because I don't want to have to redo this. And when you're just sprinting through these Oblivion Gates, it really doesn't take long to close them. So that's a bonus. After finding the fourth and final item Martin needs in order to open the portal to Mankar Cameron's Paradise, he lets us know that we can go there anytime. Unfortunately, this fight claims Baurus and Joffrey. I didn't actually know Joffrey could die, but apparently he can. I also take one more level, level 19. I also try to get level 20 because if you're level 20, Raven Cameron drops a mundane ring, which is excellent, and I distract myself doing a few other side quests. This troll kills me so hard it crashes my game, which is really funny to me. But we're back in, and I have the infinite lockpick before I go into Paradise. There's not too much in here that's awful, just the final fight. I try to take out Raven Cameron before I start fighting Mankar. I forgot that they respawn continuously, but it's kind of a nice thing that I did decide to fight Raven, because on his defeat, he drops a random enchanted ring, and I happen to get an elemental ring, which matches my Hands of the Atronach. It's 20% resist all elements, which together is 40%, so I'm basically taking half damage from elemental damage sources, which there's going to be a lot of because I'm fighting 3 high elves that are mages. The fight against Mankar is horribly slow. It's awful. I let it play out for a little while for you before I just skip to just speeding up. I have decent durability against the 3 NPCs that are fighting me because I do have an extra guy fighting with me, but I don't have the damage. Mankar has this annoying habit of healing when he gets really low, which is very bad for me because, once again, low damage, slow attack speed. It's not like I can burst damage him that effectively because I have the worst weapon in the game. Well, one of the worst weapons. I think the Fork of Horripilation is worse, but, you know, I die a lot here. On the successful attempt, I drink a bunch of potions. I have a potion that gives me lightning resistance, which is really helpful because they're slinging a lot of lightning at me. The funny thing is the attempt that is successful, I managed to get Manker Cameron into a corner, and then I can just beat him up in the corner, and he heals a couple times, but he mainly just forgets to heal. It helps too, again, the lightning resistance, because most of the spells that I'm getting hit with are lightning spells. This is where I just see my opportunity and I take it. And I'm low, so I try to heal up. Like, I just need to get this fight done. I spent over 45 minutes trying to get this fight done, and that was the successful attempt. So, we'll take it. Everything else from here is all on Martin.
Let's go.
What happened? Where's Martin? I must congratulate him.
Well, that's it for this challenge. I think these are the kinds of challenges that I like the most, where I have a bad weapon that I need to hit enemies like 15 times with before they fall over. These are pretty fun. If you have suggestions for these runs in other games, let me know. I did Fork of Horripilation through Shivering Isles and through Morrowind already. I'll try to remember to link both of those videos in at least the description. Or if there's any other challenge ideas you have, I like to take the ideas. I have several rattling around in my head, but if you have ones that are more thought out and better put together, feel free to drop them in comments. I would love to hear from viewers. But if you would like to leave a like on this video, I know that does help. It boosts the video in the algorithm or whatever, however that works. I'm not really sure how any of that functions, but I've heard. If you'd also like to subscribe to the channel, I try to put videos out like this every other week. I do work a full-time job. I work nights. So this is more of just a hobby, and I'm enjoying this hobby a lot so far. Even seeing a video get only 1 or 2 views, I've at least entertained 1 or 2 people. I also stream on Mondays and Tuesdays. I've been playing Oblivion on Mondays. I might move on to another game or just try to feature more mods, but I might also switch to some other games. That's pretty much all I have to say, so thanks for watching. Goodbye.